So as we age, our bodies and our minds do start to change. Most will say it will decline, but they're mostly it will change and adapt as it's under more and more stress, or just more and more information is going in. Sometimes older adults will find that their brains are struggling to take in all that information. So, Carol, what's been your experience as you've aged? What changes have you seen in how you think about things and how you respond to things and how you learn?
Well, for me, my memory probably has been the thing that I've noticed the most. Word recall is a big thing, where I can't remember the correct word instantly like that. Quite often now when that happens, I will do a long version of the word.
Work your way around
it, and somebody might jump in and say the correct word.
Do you like people coming in and finishing your sentences, or do you prefer just to be left alone until you come to the right word?
No, I don't mind people giving me the correct word at all. And sometimes with myself, if I can't think of a word, I'll try and make up, when I do remember the word, some little thing that will help me remember. There's certain actors that I can never remember their names. Anthony Hopkins is one that's just come straight to my mind now. He's one that I have trouble remembering his name.
So what's your story to remember his name?
I think it was A. I knew it was AH, if I do something like that.
Yeah.
And so with the memory, most times older people will know the answers. I've always maintained, as I've aged, I don't know whether this is a cop-out or not, but we have a lot more in our brains that we have to retain as opposed to a 5-year-old. They haven't experienced the things in life that we have. So I line it up with filing cabinets in my brain, that we have a lot more of those. And some of them may be right at the back of our brain, and we have to access into those.
So sometimes you just need to take a bit longer to sort through the files.
Sort through the files.
Find the something. You might go, that's the wrong drawer. No, next drawer down. Let's sort through.
Yes. So, but most of the time, I think with your memory, this is just my personal view, that if you really want to remember something, you will remember it. We have so much going on in our lives these days, and the really important things we do remember. It's the incidental little things that we place not much value on.
So what would you say to someone whose parent had just called them by their brother's name? Would you say that they didn't think it was valued to remember their child's name? No. We've all been called someone else's name from our parents.
I'm afraid I am guilty of that. I do get my children's mixed up names sometimes, but not too bad. But so it's one of those things that I don't get upset about it. I just work with it.
So when you're having a memory lapse, or having a moment, or just forgotten something that you've been told, how do you find it helpful for someone to remind you that you've forgotten? If they say, don't you remember this, or remember we talked about this before, or something like that, or have you forgotten? Do you like hearing those phrases? I don't think anyone likes hearing those phrases. No.
I think there's ways of putting it. Like we discussed this last week, and I think we decided to do it this way. So there are ways of putting it. I don't think anybody likes to be reminded of particularly losing cognitive function. And so I generally, if I'm having trouble remembering something, I take a deep breath and I say, relax, and generally the information I'm wanting will come to me. Sometimes it doesn't, and therefore you may need that assistance. But again, I go back to, we have so much going on that...
Or I find when I'm talking to older adults and trying to help them recall a conversation that we've had in the past, I'll sort of give them some hints or sort of work, as Carol said earlier, sort of work around and give that context, because some people just take a bit longer to place a conversation or place what we're discussing in particular. So they might not remember a fact straight out, but you say, remember we were talking about this, and then we talked about this, and then you were struggling with this, so we came up with this solution. They might remember that, and they'll go, oh, yes, 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 and they'll remember that final point, as opposed to you just going, remember, this is what we decided. So that's sort of one of the ways that if I'm seeing that someone that I'm talking to is struggling to just place a conversation or just try and remember what we talked about, I'll try and just help fill in those gaps for them. So they might be able to go straight to the right drawer or to the right file in their filing cabinet just to help them out, and then they go, ah, yes, I remember that now. So they're just some of the little sort of tips and tricks that you might use when you're talking to an odorata, and you can see that they're just struggling and they're not quite sure of what you might be talking about, especially if you've had the conversation before. Just show a little patience and just help them place what you're trying to talk about.
Yes, and also to remember too that all of us have our strengths and weaknesses. My strength probably is my memory for names of participants.
Yeah.
I, at any given stage, remember probably up to 300 people's names in the programs I'm teaching. So that is a reasonably good strength of mine.
Absolutely.
Where if you're teaching me something on the computer,
it'll go like that.
It'll go very quickly, and it's not a strength of mine.
Yeah. So just respect the strengths you have and just do the best with the weaknesses that you have.
Yes,
we all can grow and we all can learn. We just need patience and a bit of time and someone to help us along.
Yes.